sometimes when you're trying to make a major decision in your life, does your mind just go nuts? Mine does. You know, I get all these thoughts. You try to make a pro-con list in your brain. Well, if I make this decision, then this will happen, or so-and-so will think this, or it won't work over here, or it won't do that. And your mind gets so busy, and you're just running things over and over that it leads to confusion, and everything is a muddle. We know that God is not the author of confusion, and so if you've got a whole bunch of things going on in your brain, I want to tell you the story about Mary and Martha. In Luke chapter 10, that story starts in verse 38. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's one of my favorite stories. You know, Jesus comes over to Mary and Martha's house for dinner. Now, you know, whenever Jesus came over for dinner, he didn't come by himself. He brought at least 12 guys with him, if not more, following him around. And so all of a sudden they descend on Mary and Martha's house, and it's dinner time. And Martha was one of those girls, if she lived today, I'm sure she'd have a Palm Pilot and an iPad and a planner and all those kinds of things. So she was a make it happen kind of a girl. And so these people descend on her house, and she's thinking, we've got to feed them. She rushes into the kitchen, and she's getting the dinner ready, and she's peeling the potatoes, and she's setting the table, and she's making the drink, and she's fixing the meat. And all of a sudden she looks around, and her sister is not in there helping her. And now, I have compassion for Martha there, because if that's ever happened to you, you know that you're doing all the hard work, and the other members of your team are sitting down. That makes us mad. And so she runs out into the living room, and you know how frustrated she must have been, because she yelled at the Lord. You know you're frustrated when you yell at the Lord. And she said, Jesus, make my sister help me. And Jesus looked at her and said, Martha, you are worried about so many things. Because in Martha's mind, there are so many things to worry about here. There's the potatoes and the vegetables and the salad and the drinks and the setting the table, right? She's got a lot of things going on. And sometimes when we're trying to make a major decision, we got a lot of things to consider and a lot of things going on. And our mind just gets so muddled, and we get frustrated, just like Martha. And God doesn't want us to be frustrated. And so Jesus said, Martha, you're frustrated. He said, I want you to look at Mary. She has chosen that one thing. He said, Martha, only one thing is needful here. And Mary's doing it. She is sitting there at Jesus' feet, listening to him. And so whenever I get my brain in a muddle, and I get frustrated, and I got too many things going on, and I'm sure it's happened to you too, I stop and go, wait a minute. Only one thing is needful here. And that is to sit at the feet of the Lord and hear his voice, and know that he wants to lead and guide you. And so that story always helps me. Remember, if you've got a major decision to make, try not to make too many pro-con lists in your mind, because you only have a limited understanding of what's going to happen in the future, but God knows everything. So put everything on hold. Do your best to get your mind quiet and go listen to him and see what he says about the direction. Remind yourself, only one thing is needful, and that is to get the direction of the Lord. Because you remember, in John, he said, my sheep hear my voice, and they follow me. They will follow God's voice and not the voice of a stranger. Listen, we don't want to follow voices of a stranger. We don't want to follow the multitude of voices in the world. We want to follow the voice of God. So how do we recognize the voice of God? Well, you know, they tell me that they train U.S. Treasury agents to recognize counterfeit bills by giving them the real bill. They handle the real bill. They touch it. They look at it under light. They get so familiar with the real that when a counterfeit comes along, they recognize it as a counterfeit. And so when they do that, then they've spent their time with the real deal in order to recognize the counterfeit. For you and I, we spend time with the real Word of God so that we can recognize the voice of a stranger and not be led by it, and not let our minds get in a muddle about it. So take the time, back away from the muddle in your mind, get with God, listen to him, and understand that he's going to tell you the right way and lead you the right way. Aren't you glad? So I will see you more tomorrow.